Right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start this lesson off by giving all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem Rakawadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to all the brothers who are fervently pushing the word in sincerity and in faith. Shalom to all the sincere believers. Now, this lesson is going to be about some of the things that have been taking place in particularly Indonesia after the storms and the flood waters that the Lord had taken place out there. So through the Spirit, I'm going to read some of this article, get some precepts, and Lord's will you're edified. It says, where floodwaters turned piles of timber into floating battering rams. As many logs became forces of destruction in Indonesia last week, in a sign that deforestation compounded the devastation wrought by a cyclone. Said it poured for 3 straight days last week on the northern tip of the island of Sumatra in Indonesia. One area in Aceh province got 16 inches of rain in a day. Ensuing floods wiped out 4 villages. Farther south, the deluge brought in unexpected danger, log after log of timber. Says untold numbers of logs and other debris crashed into residential areas in North Sumatra province after Cyclone Sinyar made landfall in Indonesia on Wednesday. Said everywhere you look, left and right along the road, there are piles of timber, said Sarma Hutajulu, a voluntary rescue worker who was helping clear debris in Tuga district. Said those are what smashed into people's homes. Says the storm battered northwest Indonesia before moving on to Malaysia and Thailand, unleashing days of heavy rain that triggered flash floods and landslides that have killed at least 800 people. The vast majority of casualties were in Indonesia, where hundreds are still missing. Hundreds of thousands of others have been displaced. Experts said the catastrophic nature of the storm was compounded by decades of deforestation. Large sections of Sumatra's natural forest have been razed in recent decades and converted into palm oil plantations, pulpwood farms, and gold mines. Logs from some of those operations became floating battering rams after the storm hit. So I saw it myself in the field. There were so many logs being carried away. Walden Sitting, a pastor and environmental activist, said from North Sumatra, said logs don't just fall from the sky. They must have come from logging activities upstream. Said on Wednesday, Indonesia's environment minister, Hanif Fasol Nurofe, acknowledged that the disaster cannot be attributed solely to natural causes. He told Parliament that since 1990, tens of thousands of acres of forest had disappeared from the provinces of Aceh, West Sumatra, and North Sumatra. Mr. Hanif said that the government will evaluate environmental approvals for all operations in Batang Toru in North Sumatra and summon the officials of companies that were responsible for the presence of the logs. Earlier in the week, the head of the Meteorology, Climatology, and Geophysics Agency told lawmakers of another problem. His agency had warned local authorities in Sumatra about Sinar Senjar 8 days before the cyclone formed fully, and then issued subsequent warnings as it bore down. But he said not every regional leader was well prepared. Alia Galu Ramadya Janitha, 29, a resident of the city of Inat, said she did not receive any early warning. The area around her house, she said, started to flood last Tuesday. The next day after the storm made landfall, water entered her house, and she and her family were forced to flee to higher ground. In North Sumatra, the relentless downpours gave residents only minutes to react. Says Henry Irawan Marpa, 44, said the floods and the landslides occurred almost simultaneously. He said he only survived by holding onto a pillar in his father-in-law's house in Tucka district. Said I witnessed two neighbors being swept away by the flash flood. Across Sumatra, more than 570,000 people are now displaced from their homes. The floods have damaged many roads and bridges, impeding access to many areas. Said there are still babies there who need diapers. There are still people who haven't eaten in 5 days. There is no clean water. Phil Mulana, an aid worker, said from Northern on Tuesday. It's really bad here. Yeah, and this is what the Lord is doing. This is the type of judgment that the Lord is bringing upon the earth. Like it says in Psalm 79:6, pour out thy wrath upon the heathen that have not known thee, and upon the kingdoms that have not called upon thy name. And this right here is the result of the Lord's wrath being poured upon these people. The destruction, the flooding, the death. 2 Timothy 3:1. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. And when you look up the definition of perilous, it means full of danger or risk. And we are clearly living in some dangerous times. A lot of storms, a lot of tempests, a lot of floods, a lot of tornadoes, a lot of fires, a lot of earthquakes. A lot of civil unrest. And it's just getting worse by the day. Psalms 9:16, the Lord Yahweh is known by the judgment which he executeth. The wicked is snared in the work of his own hands. Higgaion Selah. Yeah, and the storms that swept through Indonesia, or the storm that swept through Indonesia and those other parts of Asia, that was the Lord's judgment. All the destruction that was caused, all the flooding, all the deaths, all the people that are still missing, all of that was the Lord's judgment. And like it says in Hebrews 10:31, it is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living power. And through the Lord's judgment, he's giving examples of why it's a fearful thing to fall into his hands. Deuteronomy 32:39. See now that I, even I, am He, and there is no power with me. I kill and I make alive, I wound and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. And that's right. Through His judgments, the Lord wounds and kills many people all over the world on a daily basis. And there's nothing that can be done to stop these judgments from happening. These climatologists can't stop it. These meteorologists can't stop it. The police, the military, they can't stop these things from happening. It doesn't matter how prepared people are, because however the Lord wants His judgments to play out are exactly how they are going to play out. However much destruction and death and chaos He wants to cause, that's exactly how it's going to play out. Isaiah 29:6. Thou shalt be visited of the Lord Yahweh of hosts with thunder, with earthquake and great noise, with storm and tempest and the flame of devouring fire. And the Lord has been sending out a lot of storms, tempests, fires, and earthquakes lately. And it's only going to get worse. He's only going to send out more. And they're only going to cause more death and destruction and chaos for a lot of people. Isaiah 28:2. Behold, the Lord hath a mighty and strong one, which has a tempest of hail and a destroying storm, as a flood of mighty waters overflowing, shall cast down to the earth with the hand. Yeah, and out there in Indonesia and other places, they got hit with a destroying storm. They got hit with torrential rain that resulted in crazy floods. And a lot of people are now missing. A lot of people are dead. And this is the power of the Heavenly Father being put on display. Psalms 83:14. As the fire burneth a wood, and as the flame setteth the mountains on fire. Verse 15. So persecute them with thy tempest, and make them afraid with thy storm. And that's obviously what the Lord is doing. And it's going to become a lot more clear as we get further into these last days, and these storms, tempests, fires, earthquakes, and all the other judgments of the Lord get turned up, get escalated or intensified. James 4:9. Be afflicted and mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning and your joy to heaviness. And that is exactly what we see all over the world. People being afflicted and mourning and weeping. Their laughter is being turned to mourning and their joy to heaviness. All the fun that people used to have years ago, they can't have that type of fun anymore. Either, the people that they used to have those experiences with have passed away, or the places that they used to go are shut down, or everything is just too expensive and people can't afford to do the things that they used to do. And like it says in 2 Ezra 8:50, for many great miseries shall be done to them that in the latter time shall dwell in the world, because they have walked in great pride. And that's what we see. The Lord is unleashing non-stop great miseries upon the earth and upon these wicked people to afflict them and to punish them for constantly provoking him unto wrath with their non-stop wickedness. All of this judgment that we see taking place is merely these wicked people reaping what they have sown. They've angered the Lord, and now they're getting punished accordingly. And those punishments are going to continue to get worse because these people are not going to change. They're just going to dive more and more into that wickedness. So the Lord has to judge them. He has to wound them. He has to kill them. He has to afflict them. He has to punish them. And that's what we see taking place all over the world with all this death and destruction and chaos. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up here. In closing, I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakakwadash, the Wadi Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, for putting the spirit on me to do this lesson. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to all the brothers who are still fervently pushing the word in sincerity and in faith. Shalom to all the sincere believers. Hope you all stay strong, stay safe, stay fervent, stay circumspect, stay prayed up, and Adawan Ratazah. Till next time, Shalom.